visual effects supervisor's key responsibility is for the look of the visual effects. They're sort of largely computer effects, but not necessarily, in a movie.
So the supervising animator is responsible for basically the animation in a VFX production, which is all the motion, cameras sometimes, timing, pacing, framing. We'll do a little bit of previs to help the director suss out how the scene's supposed to take place, all the way up to final animations.
It can vary a little bit from shop to shop, from studio to studio. At ILM, the animation supervisor, when we're doing a show that has a lot of creature animation, character animation, the animation supervisor partners with the visual effects supervisor, and the two of them are kind of the creative leadership for the project. And so I'll meet with the director and talk to them about what they want in this particular project, how they want the creatures to look and act and so forth. And then I'll have a team of animators at ILM that I oversee.
Within a TV or a film production, I'm in charge of the miniature effects. So that means working alongside the other effects disciplines, both the physical special effects guys and the CG guys, and in some cases the prosthetics guys, to work out, breaking down a script, what could be best served for the production by going down a miniature effects route.
Physical effects is broken down to creating the physical special effects that you see on Doctor Who. So everything from explosions to element effects to blowing up Daleks and, you know, all the fun stuff that you see on the show. So it's a pretty exciting job.
For The Hobbit, there was roughly 60 animators working at any time on it, and I would be there was 2 supervisors, so let's say I had half of them, and I would have dailies, what we called dailies every morning, where I'd sit down in a big room with a big screen, much like where I'm sitting now, and just go through all the animators' shots one by one, see how they cut in, see if there's other things that could be improved upon.
We get a script sent through, sometimes quite late, and we have to work really quite hard to go through the scripts, and then we have a head of department meeting with relevant sort of departments to talk about the script and how on earth are we going to do some of the effects that are written down on that page.
I think the biggest challenge in my job is overcoming artificiality. Our work now is all CG. We're not using animatronics or stop motion as we did in the past. And so trying to make the creatures feel tactile and real, and that when you look at them that you instantly sort of have a feeling for what it would feel like to put your hand on them, I think is the hardest thing for us working in CG.
You know, there's an 8-year-old viewer that watches the Avengers, that watches James Bond, and when they watch Doctor Who, we can't compromise on special effects. Budgets are, you know, a fraction of what those £100 million movies are, and yet that 8-year-old will still expect the same effects in TV as they would for film. So that's the real challenge in keeping up with the big boys, so to speak.
If you go back even to 10, 15 years, then anything big effect sequence is liable to have had a miniature effects involvement. That's changed with the advent of CGI, and there was a point, I'd say, 5-6 years ago where it had tipped completely the other way. Whereas now I think when you look at a script, if it's got something that's got a lot of dynamics going on, whether that be an explosion or dust or a building collapsing or a crash sequence, sometimes miniatures still actually give you the physics for real. So sometimes that's a better and cheaper solution.
3D always adds a bit of difficulty in the sense that you can't cheat on things the way that we used to be able to do in 2D. Everything has to be in a 3D space. Peter Jackson would say, hey, I want that dragon to be a little bit bigger. And in 2D, we could just scoot him closer to camera and no one would know and he'd be bigger. And now we have to go in and scale the creature instead, which causes a whole bunch of problems for the creature guys with the muscle simulations. And if a foot lands, they could always go find a little, like a little dust element that's been shot, because we have like tons of elements that have been shot of explosions of dust and flour and everything. And they can just stick that in there by the foot. And now when the foot plants, you get a little dust explosion, and it was cheap. It probably took them 20 minutes. But now in 3D, you can't do that. You have to have a 3-dimensional dust explosion. So now an effects artist has to go off and render out a 3D explosion of dust and then give it to comp. And then now they comp in 3 dimensions anyways. And everything just takes a bit longer.
You know, a few years ago when I first started, there was a real thing about, you know, visual effects, special effects, one will beat the other. And we coexist, and I always think that we will coexist. I think we work hand in hand now, which is really great.
There's a lot of specialisation in visual effects these days. You could be a computer programmer, you could be an artist, just a pure artist painting things, you can be an animator, you can be a compositor, and depending on those areas you need to have specific training in that area. Animators have studied animation at university. Computer programmers have done a computer science degree, all of them. The people who write the shader code and things, they have to have done that. But there are, some of them are less specialised, like compositors come from all sorts of different backgrounds.
Yeah, the keys today for getting into visual effects as an animator are the same as they've been for a while. It's having a good, strong reel, and a reel that a portfolio really that demonstrates both good action and good acting. Those are the two things. If you've made a short film, that's even better because it demonstrates a lot of different qualities.
You have to have the artistic side and the technical side, because it's all about, or it's largely about visual aesthetics and storytelling. But in order to achieve that, you have to have a really good understanding of some very complex techniques to get that up on the screen.
You need to be easy to work with. You need to be able to understand what the notes are that are given to you. Obviously, you need to be a good animator. But I mean, we do put a lot of emphasis on just being able. If you're easy to work with, that's a huge bonus.
If you want to get in this industry, just work hard. Prepare to work hard. It can be glamorous, but it can be blooming miserable. Keep your head high. You're going to get shouted at. You're going to get it wrong, but just keep working, keep plugging, keep going in there, ring people up, annoy people. I get annoyed all the time, but the ones that keep annoying me, eventually I give in. So don't, not necessarily ring me, but if you're, if you want to get into sound, cameras, again, just keep plugging away. You'll get there eventually.
We get called on to do things when they're impossible to do any other way. If a director or anyone can figure out a way to shoot a scene or an element, they will do that as their first choice. If it's something that has to be completely fantastic and there's no possible way to photograph it, that's what we get called on.
The technology around filmmaking has changed at an unprecedented speed and level over the last 10 years. We're going into a new renaissance of digital filmmaking that's changing everything.